I'm Eric Scripseth, president of the Meshannon Creek Watershed Association, and this presentation discusses how we are going to update conditions in the Meshannon Creek watershed. We, in partnership with the Clearfield County Conservation District, were recently awarded a Coldwater Heritage Planning Grant from the Coldwater Heritage Partnership to conduct this assessment. Meshannon Creek is a major tributary of the West Branch of the Susquehanna. From its headwater area along the northern edges of Blair and Cambria counties, Meshannon Creek flows generally northeast until it meets with the West Branch a few miles upstream of Carthus, Pennsylvania. For most of its length, Meshannon Creek is the county line between Clearfield and Center counties. About half of the streams are impaired mostly from mining impacts. About half of the streams are clean water streams, many with trout. We will be assessing current conditions in both types of streams. Prior to the Surface Mine Control and Reclamation Act of 1977, there wasn't a legal requirement to reclaim the surface and underground coal mining sites or treat the water that emerged from these locations. Those legacy mine sites from before August 3, 1977 are classified as abandoned mines. Their conditions vary greatly. These mines are often associated with impaired stream water. The mining impacts are important, and updating them will be a big part of this effort. We will not be ignoring the clean water streams. When we get good results from our water sampling, we will be examining the life living on the bottom of the stream. These are known as benthic macroinvertebrates. Their variety and abundance can tell us whether the water is consistently clean or our good water sample was just good for that day. A lot of studies have been done of the Meshannon Creek watershed. All of them were done on or before 2010. Much of the historical water sampling data resides on the Susquehanna River Basin Commission's website. It is an open question how useful this data is today. Our sampling plan is structured to determine how relevant that data is today. We will use it when it still applies and update it when it doesn't. You can see from the map that the sampling data is very uneven around the watershed. The data is concentrated in areas that had recovery plans prepared. This area was sampled during the Headwaters Recovery Plan. This is the Trout Run area, and it had a recovery plan. And this is the Amy Run area, and there was a recovery plan prepared for it. Tom Clark, Mine Drainage Program Coordinator for the Susquehanna River Basin Commission, and Andrew King, an environmental science with the Susquehanna River Basin Commission, developed the first phase of our sampling plan. 10 two-person sampling teams will be sampling the main stem of Meshannon Creek and its tributary streams near where they join Meshannon Creek. These samples will be conducted over a 2-day period of low stream flow in late July or early August. The green sample points on this map are locations that have been sampled previously. The red sample points do not have sampling data from past sampling events. There is one orange dot on this map, Hawk Run, that we will discuss later. When we will be sampling in the headwaters area or on some of the smaller tributaries, we will often be able to measure flow with a stopwatch and a bucket. The stream gets a lot larger as it flows downstream.
This is Meshannon Creek, right where it is crossed by the bridge for Pennsylvania Highway 53. And right up here is the junction with Black Meshannon Creek. After they combine, they continue to flow north, and after about another 5 river miles, the Meshannon Creek joins with the west branch of the Susquehanna. This junction sort of indicates the dual character of the Meshannon Creek watershed. Meshannon Creek, other than in its headwaters, which is maybe 20 miles upstream from here, is heavily impacted by mine drainage. There's very little aquatic life in Meshannon Creek. Black Meshannon Creek has some mining impacts in the mile or so before you get to this point, but earlier than that, upstream from there, it is clean water. It's a popular trout stream, and it is a very popular stream for advanced kayakers when the flow is high enough right after a major rain event. Meshannon Creek, despite its mining impacts, is a very popular stream for basically more intermediate or beginner skilled kayakers and canoeists. We're going to be sampling at places like this, both in the main stem of the creek, of Meshannon Creek, and in the streams that join in, the tributary streams. We'll be measuring flow, we'll be measuring the pH, we'll be measuring conductivity and the temperature. We will also be pulling water samples that will be taken to a laboratory. Those samples will be monitored for alkalinity, acidity, pH, sulfates, iron, manganese, and aluminum. Those metals are typical for the mine drainage that you have in this area. We will be measuring these streams in a simultaneous effort. There will be 64 sample points. 2 of them are right here.
The results of the Phase 1 sampling will determine how we proceed from there. If it matches previous data that was extensive, we will use the existing data. If the results show good water, we will evaluate the life in the stream. If the results show bad water and past results don't explain it well, we will sample upstream until we find the causes of the impairment, which will usually be mine water discharges.
This is a mine drainage seep off of Bucket Line Road in Clearfield County in the Meshannon Creek watershed. You can see the black pile in the distance. That is a coal mine waste pile. So this is the area where a mine entrance once was.
In our Phase 1 sampling, we will obtain numbers for the amount of sulfate flowing in from the tributaries and the amount measured in the main stem of Meshannon Creek. We will subtract the sulfate furnished by the tributaries from the amount measured in the main stem. The remainder is the amount of sulfate discharged into Meshannon Creek from discharges near the creek or in the stream bed or its adjacent wetlands. Unfortunately, these are not rare.
This is Meshannon Creek, and we are immediately next to the village of Osceola Mills, which is right there. When we are doing the water sampling in this watershed, we're going to measure the contaminants coming in from the tributaries. We will also measure the contaminants within the creek of the main stem of Meshannon Creek. When you subtract the tributaries from what you have in the main stem, the remainder is the contamination that is flowing directly into Meshannon Creek from discharges that are right next to it or near it or even discharging into the stream bed. We have a good example of that right here. This orange water and that dead zone that's back up there in the woods is a mine water discharge that is flowing directly into Meshannon Creek. One of the challenges that many of these discharges present is that they're so close to Meshannon Creek that there's very little room to put in a treatment system. And so there will have to be some creative solutions in order to treat this water.
This flow chart lays out the Phase 2 water sampling plan and shows the decisions made at each step and the subsequent actions. You can pause the video here if you would like to give it a better look. We will be uploading the water quality data we will be getting to the Susquehanna River Basin Commission. We will combine that data, publicly available GIS data sets on land classification, National Agricultural Imagery Program aerial photography of vegetation condition, and any additional data we can obtain from past assessments by the PADEP and the Fish and Boat Commission. This will be combined to identify potential threats to the water quality or cold temperature in the cleaner streams. Generating all this data doesn't accomplish a lot if improvements are not made. The Meshannon Creek Watershed Coalition existed from about 2002 to 2014 when they disbanded in frustration. They were able to get 4 recovery plans completed for the southern third of the watershed, and in 2005 they supplied much of the labor for the cold water conservation plan for the Meshannon Creek headwaters that was prepared by the Clearfield County Conservation District. They were unlucky in their timing. Their plans were completed right before the Great Recession, where much of the funding dried up, and much that remained was dedicated to solving easier problems outside of the Meshannon Creek watershed. The Meshannon Creek Watershed Coalition accomplished a lot with their planning activities, and we are going to use whatever data from these plans is proven to still be relevant. Unfortunately, planning activity is largely invisible to the public. The Meshannon Creek Watershed Association took advantage of the fact that this sign is still standing and the domain name meshannoncreek.org was available to get some free publicity from this sign and one other sign still standing in the watershed. As a side effect, we occasionally get blasted by people angry that Trout Run has not been improved. Because of that legacy, we are taking a different approach. We are taking responsibility for maintaining 5 treatment systems that were orphaned when the Wood Duck chapter of Trout Unlimited disbanded in 2014. We won't just be doing planning activities, we will be improving the performance of treatment systems that have already been built while we work to obtain funding to build more. We know of one, and there may be several more treatment systems that are not currently maintained, and we will be investigating taking over these as well.
This group of ponds is the Chiller Seeps treatment system. It is one of 5 treatment systems that are now on state game lands that were built by the Wood Duck chapter of Trout Unlimited. When that chapter shut down in 2014, they deeded this property over to the Pennsylvania Game Commission, and these systems have not been maintained since then. The way these systems work is mine water flows into the upper ponds, interacts with alkalinity that is in those ponds, and then flows into subsequent ponds, and the chemistry is completed. These systems have not been maintained since 2014. The Meshannon Creek Watershed Association is in the final stages, this is April 12th while I'm saying this, of negotiating taking over the maintenance on these systems.
Another reason to maintain treatment systems is to learn how. The recovery plan for the headwaters area of Moshannon Creek, about 10% of the watershed, recommends 31 treatment systems to treat 35 discharges. Since a lot of mine reclamation has been done since that plan was prepared, they may not all be necessary. Our sampling will help determine that. Even if only half of those systems are needed, that is a lot of treatment systems to maintain, and this isn't the most impacted area of the watershed. Hawk Run is one of the largest mine water problems in Pennsylvania. Hawk Run is a tiny little stream before it receives water from multiple mine water discharges.
This little stream of Hawk Run, before it receives all the mine water discharges, it's not completely free of mining impacts even here. We're looking at the edge of a coal mine waste pile. It's a small one, but it would have some impact on the water quality at this location.
This mine map shows a portion of the mine complex from the Morrisdale Coal Company mine. These mines were measured in the 1970s to discharge about 7 million gallons of water, we'll call it water, each day. Note that the scale bar represents 4/10 of a mile, and the map continues off the screen to the north.
This is Hawk Run, near where it joins Moshannon Creek. The orange color in the water is abandoned mine drainage. It is very rich in iron, acidity, and typically aluminum and manganese. This is one of the most contaminated tributaries for Moshannon Creek. The flow is estimated at something like 4,800 gallons a minute.
A large mine water treatment plant will need to be built. This will need to be an active treatment plant with a full-time staff, likely a project for the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection. Our data should show the need for this plant, and we will assist in building support for it to happen. This slide outlines our philosophy for how we will proceed. We will make sure existing treatment systems are working and fix them if they aren't. We will take what we learn from this assessment we will be doing by following this plan to make additional improvements. We will make sure people understand that we are working on one of the biggest water quality problems in Pennsylvania. If it was easy to solve, someone would have done it already. Mine drainage is not one problem. It is hundreds of individual problems, and they will have to be solved individually. Probably the dullest part of presentations like this is the last few slides that show references. In this presentation, these slides are also a slideshow. This is a mine water discharge in Center County flowing from a collapsed mine entrance. These references are 3 of the recovery plans, restoration plans that were prepared in the past for this watershed. This is a picture taken in the upper portion of Moshannon Creek where it still has relatively good water. Note the algae in the water. These are 2 more of the recovery plans that were prepared for portions of the Moshannon Creek watershed. This is a Google Earth image showing a strip mine area where some of it has been reclaimed and other parts show the open trenches and heaps of mine spoil of an unreclaimed strip mine. This is the reclaimed area. This is a cut area. This would be the high wall. This is piled mine spoil that has had trees grow over it. These two TMDL reports, this is for a tributary to Moshannon Creek, and this one is for the entire Moshannon Creek. This is a coal mine waste pile, also known as a gob or bony pile. This pile is near grass flat. These piles lead to a lot of problems because they are prone to catch fire, and the water that penetrates them produces very concentrated mine drainage. This last slide shows a very large passive treatment system that was recently constructed in the Potts Run watershed. The document mentioned is the Cold Water Conservation Plan for the headwaters area of Moshannon Creek. We will be preparing one for the whole watershed.